Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this morning on a very important issue. I'm State Senator Shelley Mayer from the 37th Senate District, which is in Westchester, and I'm here with my colleague, Assemblymember Carrie Woerner, and other people who really care about the 250th Commemoration Commission, which we established when we passed a bill in 2022, to create this commission in New York State to get ready to celebrate the 250th commemoration of the United States Revolution. And New York has so much to be proud of, and we are here today to urge that the governor put $18 million in the budget for this commission. We only have a year left, and we have so much work to do and so much opportunity to show the people of New York and the nation of New York's preeminent place in the history of the American Revolution. So much to be proud of, so much to create economic benefit, and so much to encourage our young people to learn about the history of New York. So we are here because we passed this bill, and when we passed the bill, we anticipated that there would be funding either from the feds or from the state to allow our work to go forward. And unfortunately, to date, there has not been enough. In the executive budget, the governor proposed $300,000. That's really just a drop in the bucket of what we need. I will speak a little bit before I introduce my colleagues here that Governor Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania proposed spending almost $65 million to prepare for the 250th in Pennsylvania. New Jersey has allocated almost $30 million. Virginia appropriated $27 million. And New York, which has a preeminent role and such a great story to tell and many people to educate, has not really come full circle here. And so we're here to draw attention to the incredible opportunities that are about the commission and our work, to talk about the multiplier effect of any money that's invested in this, and also to ensure that people understand the wonderful, rich history. So today, besides my colleague, Assemblywoman Carrie Woerner, who's going to speak, we also have several members of the commission: Connie Kehoe, who was appointed by the temporary president of the Senate; Lauren Roberts, who's an appointee of the Speaker of the Assembly; my colleagues, Senator Andrew Gennardis, Senator Pete Harckham. We have Suzanne Clary, president of the J. Heritage Center; Joe Ryan here in uniform from the Living History Education Foundation, and Bill Weinecke. Niles Jaeger is on the executive committee of RW 250, which is our Westchester organization. And we anticipate some others coming. But with that, I want to turn it over to my colleague, Assemblywoman Carrie Woerner, who, from her own community, has so much to be proud of and to be sure we show off. But we can only do it if we get the funds that we need. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you, Shelley. I am proud to represent the Saratoga County communities where the turning point of the American Revolution happened. But that is not the only history that we can celebrate. We can celebrate as part of the 250th commemoration. We can celebrate the role that our county played in women's suffrage, in the abolition movement. We can celebrate our history as part of the Industrial Revolution. We can celebrate our history as part of the space race. Yes, there was a missile test site in Malta, New York. So much of our nation's history can be highlighted and celebrated in each of New York's counties. And what this 250th celebration, which will go on for several years, is intended to do is to celebrate the breadth of American history. And every single one of the 62 counties in New York, it has parts of that history. And this is economic development, because what we know is that history tourists stay twice as long and spend 3 times as much money as any other form of tourism. If we can do the right job in creating a statewide celebration of our 250 years of history, we will attract people from around the country and around the nation and from parts of New York to experience history from New York's perspective. And with that will come economic development for counties that, generally speaking, don't see economic development. This is an important way for us to invest a relatively small amount of money to create economic activity over a 7-year period across the state. So I'm pleased to join with my colleagues and with the Commission and our history representatives here to call on the governor to fund a fraction of what her peer governors are funding. We have a much larger state with a lot more history, and we're just asking for a fraction of the money. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carrie. And I think, do you have to go to conference so that you?
We never start on time.
No, we don't start on time. Okay. All right. So with that, our first speaker is Constance Kehoe, as I mentioned, appointee of the temporary president of the Senate, president of Revolutionary Westchester 250, many other things. But go ahead, Connie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Mayor, and thank you for speaking about the turning point. Yes, I'm really pleased to be here as the volunteer president of Revolutionary Westchester 250. We've actually, along with Niles, my colleague, for more than 6 years, we have actually been working on establishing a foundation of interest in this commission, in this part of the history of our nation. It was actually President Obama in 2016 who signed legislation in Washington to create a national commemoration. He said it would take 10 years. So we're coming up very soon to the key, probably the key moment, although as Assembly Member Woerner mentioned, in New York, we're going to go on and on. But July 4th of 2026 is a very big day for this commemoration, certainly nationally, internationally. So I just wanted to share a little bit of my experience to say that as a volunteer group connected with the county, connected with the tourism office, there's just so much volunteer effort and hyper-local effort can take us. And the comparison to other states, I always say when I'm talking to folks in Westchester, you don't have to go to Philadelphia, you don't have to go to Boston, you don't have to go to Yorktown, Virginia, you can. But actually, so much happened in New York. So one little bit of my experience over those 6 years, we've been able to get people to come at 10 o'clock in the morning to Mount Kisco Library and hear about the history that happened in their backyard. And I would say every year I hear many times, I never knew this happened. So there is a need to educate the next generation. Some of us remember the bicentennial. We maybe got interested.
I work for the commission.
So the way I'm thinking of this absolutely needed $18 million in the state budget, I'm thinking of it as the next generation. Because I don't think without this boost to building awareness across the entire state, we will be able to have lifelong memories for that generation. So this is critical, and it's a critical moment, and I so appreciate being invited here and having our partners in government help our local efforts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Connie. Thanks so much. Next, we have Lauren Roberts, appointee of the Speaker, as I mentioned, Saratoga County historian and chair of the Saratoga County 250th Commission.
We'll switch spaces.
Wow, thank you so much, both Carrie and Shelley. I appreciate this opportunity to talk about our history. New York has all of these amazing historic sites. And I feel lucky because when I was little, my parents took me to those sites. We visited Fort Ticonderoga. We visited Seneca Falls. We visited the Saratoga battlefield. And I think that being there was what developed my love of history. And I truly believe that putting your feet on the ground where history happened connects you to the past. And if we are able to get funding for the commission, that's an opportunity that we can give to thousands of New York students to bring them out to these sites where history happened, where this nation was created. And there's actually a program that's been proposed as part of our strategic plan called Revolution in Your Backyard. This program would be great to bring people to these sites. We have these sites, they're amazing. Let's bring the students out and let them feel for themselves what it's like to be a connection, to have a connection with the past. And if we can't, the next best thing is to bring that information to their classrooms. They would have the option to do either of these things. Therefore, they can look at the history themselves. They can find their own connections. They can relate to people in the past that might have had the same or similar struggles that they have today. And I just want to note that we have these sites because of the people that came before us. New York has such a strong connection with historic preservation. For the last over 200 years, New Yorkers have been preserving these sites because of the history, because they knew it was important that we had these places to go to learn about our past, to learn about the Revolution and the continuing sites that have come since then. So we now have a turn. It's our turn. It's our chance. What are we going to do to make sure that these sites, that this historic preservation model moves forward to the next generation so that when they're celebrating in 50 years, there's places to go. There's historic sites to bring those students. And finally, I just want to say, I know this is time sensitive. In a month, we're going to be looking at Lexington and Concord with the shot heard round the world. But I know it seems like we don't have a lot of time, but I can assure you that people around the state historian, county historians like myself, heritage centers, historical societies, all the museums across the state, we've been thinking, we've been planning, we've been collaborating. We know what to do. We need the final piece in place for that funding. And we can't be the only one of the original 13 colonies that doesn't fund this commemoration. So I want to thank you all for your support. I appreciate this, and please fund us so that we can continue New York's legacy in revolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And I think, Rich, you're here. He made it.
Hey, you made it!
Rich
All
Prizik.
the way from Buffalo, the man.
General, good to see you.
Appoint.
Sergeant.
Okay. Rich is here. Rich Prizik.
Pizek.
Pizek.
Much easier to say than it is to spell.
Yes.
Trust me.
Rich is the appointee of the temporary president of the Senate, another one, and president of Niagara Frontier Council for the Social Studies. So can you give us a few words?
Of course. Yes. How you doing, Rich Pizek? Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thanks for having me, inviting me. I drove all the way from Buffalo, left my house at 5 o'clock this morning. My dogs are probably wondering, where is he? He left so early. So thank you for having us out. This is, as you know, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We don't get this chance again. We always hear, oh, this is once in a generation, once in a period. This is once in our lifetime. I don't plan on being around for the 300th anniversary. I'm too old. But I will tell you this. We have an opportunity that is in front of us to work with classrooms across the state, K through 12. That's why I'm on the commission, to kind of help facilitate all that stuff. We have a lot of great partners. We have a lot of the local county regional commissions already up and running. Rev 250 is doing great work from what I've been hearing and I've been seeing from selfies from people all across the state sending them to me like, oh my God, this is great stuff. I've been to Saratoga Battlefield. There's a lot of stuff that as an educator that I can get the students motivated, get other educators around the state motivated for, and I'm looking forward to the next, not just between now and say even the Saratoga Battlefield in the fall of 27, but well beyond that, because this is going to be a retrospective of not what we've done for now, but it's what we've done for the last 250 years. And that's the key thing. We're going to be looking at this not as just, oh, what happened in 1776. We're going to be looking at what happened from 1776 to 26 and getting us ready for the next 250 years for everyone to kind of embrace and celebrate, commemorate, observe, and reflect on that. With that, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very
What the
much.
drive?
Thank you. Several of my colleagues are here, and I know in the Senate we have a meeting, so I'm going to call them, and then we'll come back. So first, Senator Pete Harcum.
Right, Pete.
Thank you very much, Senator Mayer. Thank you, Assemblymember Woerner. Thank you both for your leadership, my colleagues in government, members of the commission. You know, one of the great things about living in a district with a lot of history is everywhere I go, Joe and his troops are there cheering, and people think they're cheering for me. It's a wonderful, wonderful
We are
thing.
cheering for him.
This, as all of the speakers have spoken about, the rich history at a very granular and local level. So in my district, we have the Battle of Stony Point. We have the French troops in the Bedford Village Green. In Yorktown Heights, we have a Rochambeau Festival every year. Great way that we reconnect with our French partners, the French military, actually come to that celebration. Very quick story. I raised my kids in the hamlet of Katona, which is in the town of Bedford, on a dirt road. There was a colonial era house 2 houses away that some developers wanted to raise and put a McMansion. Neighbors got together, rallied to try and save the home. As we studied the history, and as written in the history of Katona, the residents of that house sat on the porch and watched the French troops walk down Mount Holly Road on their way to the Bedford Village Green. The road is unchanged, the house is unchanged, Bedford Village Green is largely unchanged. So there is granular local history, and there's so many local groups that all of these folks know about and want to partner with, but it takes funding. And that's why I thank all colleagues here for raising this issue. The funding is a critical piece so we can move this forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Pete. Senator Andrew Gennardis.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm State Senator Andrew Gennardis from Brooklyn, which was the site of the largest and most deadliest battle during the American Revolution, which actually took place in my district. I represent Bay Ridge to Brooklyn Heights. So the British landed in Gravesend Bay, in Bay Ridge, and in Gravesend. They marched up the Brooklyn Peninsula. They fought in Park Slope. The Maryland 400 died in my district. And then George Washington escaped off Brooklyn Heights through Fulton Landing across the river the night in August of '76. And so all of this history is anchored right here in my district, and it's incredibly rich. And so I'm excited to join this call for this funding. And I'm not here just because I represent important sites and moments in our state's revolutionary history. I'm a history nerd. I am that person that stays twice as long and spends 3 times as much. Maybe 4 times as much, maybe 5 times as much. I try to plan my family vacations around the nearest Civil War battlefield site or American history site. Every year, as my colleagues will attest to, I give a speech in the Senate. Pat, you're in luck this year, your first time, to celebrate New York Constitution Day, which is April 20th, 1777, the day that New York's first Constitution was ratified. It's New York's 248th birthday this year. It's very exciting. But also because as my family has done our own genealogy work, it turns out that 2 of my wife's ancestors fought in the American Revolution. And we found that out by doing some genealogical research. And so this also has a personal connection to me and my wife's family and my family. And so this is incredibly important because not enough people know our history, not enough people know our story, and they don't know why it was important. They just know that we are reaping the benefits of what transpired 250 years ago. And it's important that we explain to people, we show people, we tell people, we let their imaginations come alive for the next generation to understand just how special this moment was, just how important this moment was, and why it's so critically important that we preserve and we share. So I really thank you, Senator Mayer, for leading on this, and Assemblymember Woerner, and my full support to make sure we get every penny so we can tell our story. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Gennardis. Next of my great colleagues, Senator John Liu, who I would just point out is the chair of the Committee on New York City Schools. And there's a lot about education that this program will allow, and we need to make sure it happens. But
Good morning, everyone. I'm John Liu. I work for Shelley Mayer. I really am very excited to be part of this effort. I think it's a shame that right now we're the only one of the original 13 that has not committed resources to the celebration and commemoration of 250 years of this great nation. I am proud to be the representative of the spirit of someone who is clearly long deceased, but a property owner in Flushing, homeowner in Flushing named John Bound, who, when Governor Stuyvesant of New Netherlands prohibited Quakers from meeting, that John Bound said, Screw you, Governor. The Quakers can come meet in my house. He wasn't even a Quaker, but he invited the Quakers to meet in his house and have their worship in his place. And that led to the signing of the Flushing Remonstrance, where Mr. Brown led other Flushing residents to sign this declaration that we believe in freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, freedom of expression. And he got thrown in jail for a long time and then got sent back to the Netherlands, back to England, where John Brown was from. But that Flushing Remonstrance, a 350-year-old document, became the basis of what then became enshrined in the United States Constitution in the First Amendment. And so we have a lot of history in the state of New York, as many of the folks here have already elucidated, and we certainly want to celebrate the 250th anniversary of our republic in New York, and even in my town of Flushing, where there are many events planned already. So we need to get the 18 million into this. Thank Senator Mayer for her efforts, her relentless efforts in trying to get this passed in the state budget this year. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Liu. And next of the senators, Senator Pat Fahey.
I just needed to be here today because I think it is so important. Many folks know I'm a little bit obsessed with museums and trying to preserve our history, and I am fully convinced that some of the partisan divide that we face these days is because of a lack of appreciation, a lack of respect, and sometimes even a lack of knowledge of our history. And if we want good citizens, we teach them the history and the shoulders that they stand on. So I just think this is so important. And I as somebody who didn't grow up in New York, I'm forever fascinated at the history throughout the entire state, not just here in the capital region where we were the epicenter of so much. And I'll be at the Saratoga National Battlefields on Saturday for a sad memorial, but nonetheless, it is important that we have it there. And I really appreciate your leadership on this. I think we can't do enough, and it is a shame that we're the last of the 13 original states that haven't committed. So thank you again. And the more we do to bring our children, I love the outfits, the more it's not enough to just have it in our history books. We need to make sure that that history is alive and something they can feel, touch, experience. So that is the part that I agree is so important. Thank you again. Thank you for
so
your
much.
leadership.
Thank you very much. Okay, briefly, Suzanne Clary, who runs the president of the Jay Heritage Center, one of the homes of John Jay in my district. If you want to say a few words.
Thank you, Shelley, and thank you everyone who's working so hard. Many of us are volunteers. I'm really proud to be here, not only to represent one of New York State's path-through history sites. We run a National Historic Landmark site that was added to the trail for exploring themes of freedom and dignity. And for those same reasons, we were added to Westchester County's African American Heritage Trail. And we are committed to telling our whole history, and we think no state is better positioned than New York to tell that whole history and position ourselves not only for 2026 but 2027, when we will commemorate the abolition of slavery in New York State. Freedom is an important pillar of what we share with student groups that come to our site every year. Thanks to New York State and the Connect Kids to Parks grants, we bring over 1,000 students, and they want to walk the paths, and they want to look at the view sheds, and they want to see where history happened. And they're not the only ones. The world is watching us because our Constitution is based on the New York Constitution and the Constitution of Massachusetts. And I'm glad that you mentioned religious liberties and freedoms, and also equal treatment. Those are pillars of the New York Constitution, and New York's Constitution and Massachusetts Constitutions, they were the basis for our American Constitution. And at no other time have we been so focused on history and making history and reviving those themes. And so I'm very excited to work with all of you, not to just promote the early American history, but bring it forward to modern contemporary times for a new audience. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. And now, one of the remarkable people, Joe Ryan, in 5th New York Continental Line uniform from the Living History Education Foundation.
All right. All right, folks. The Republic will stand. All right. Bill, come here for a second. Bill, would you drape this around the senator's neck? This is a copy of the Order of Merit, which was created by George Washington at Washington's headquarters in Newburgh, New York, for the common soldier. Now, Senator Harcum is obviously an officer because he's already gotten a sword from the foundation, as well as Senator Harcum, because they've been supporting living history for a long time. But she is a soldier in this cause, so she deserves the Order of Merit. As a sidebar, I am the corporate memory of the bicentennial. I was the printer on the New York State bicentennial barge. And any of you who would like a souvenir of that, we printed Continental money, and after this meeting, I will gladly pay you in Continental money. You can't get this just about any other place. And the point is, you can't spend it in a place of ill repute or well, maybe you could do it at a tavern. But anyway, that being said, on a sidebar, you are absolutely right what tourism dollars do. I was on the F&I Commission. We brought in millions with very little investment. The bottom line is it's time for New York to ante up. But we have got the people, we've got the shovels in the ground, and we're digging. But anyway, we need some help, all right? Thank you.
So much. Thank you. Niles, you want to say anything? No? Oh, kind of. Okay. Well, thank you all for being here, and thank you all for urging that in this final enacted budget, hopefully done by March 31st, that there is $18 million designated for this commission, and that this commission, which has been formed and has been meeting and is meeting again next week, can go forward with really renewed vigor, not only to show the past, but as the speakers have said, to show what has come since the past. We have so much to be proud of. It's our honor for me and Carrie to be carrying this issue forward. We urge the governor to fulfill the mandate of New York's history and make sure that we have the money to do the work we need to do. Thank you very much. You want to say anything further?
No.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
3 cheers. Can you say the word huzzah?
Huzzah!
All right. 3 cheers for Great Washington and the Continental Congress. Hip, hip.
Huzzah!
I can't hear you. Hip, hip.
Huzzah!
I still can't hear you. Hip, hip.
Huzzah!
Okay.